Hit subscribe and stay with me, because what happened over the next 24 hours didn't just end my marriage. It ended the version of myself who kept giving second chances to someone who didn't even bother to come home. My wife didn't come home last night. No call, no text, no I'm running late. Just silence. And silence is a strange thing when you're married. It doesn't sound empty. It sounds intentional. First, I tried to play it cool. I reheated her dinner, set it on the table like she might walk in any minute, tossed a piece of chicken down to Max, who waited by the door like he understood more than I did. It was a Thursday, regular day. She'd called earlier with that bright voice she used when she wanted to skip explanations. Drinks with coworkers. Don't wait up. I'd heard it before. I wanted to believe it again. But hours passed. 10 turned into midnight. Midnight dragged into 2. I kept pacing between the kitchen window and the front door, checking the driveway, listening for her tires hitting the gravel the way they always did. Instead, it was just the clock. Tick, tick, tick. Every second felt like someone tapping on the inside of my skull. I texted her once, just once. Everything okay? No typing bubble. Not even a delivered receipt at first. Max got restless, whining, then settling, then whining again, like even he felt something was wrong. The thing is, you don't go from relaxed husband to suspicious man overnight unless your gut has been whispering for months. And mine had been. Late nights, secretive laughs at her phone, coworkers' names I didn't recognize suddenly popping up like they were lifelong friends. She'd tell me I was imagining things, that I was tired from work, that I needed to stop being dramatic. That word, dramatic. She used it like a lid she could slam on every doubt I had. But last night, sitting alone in that dim kitchen with the porch light throwing a sad glow over an empty driveway, I realized she used it because it always worked. Until now, I didn't sleep. Not even for 10 minutes. I just sat there as the night drained out of the sky and the morning sun crept across the floor. At 7:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. One message. No apology. No explanation. Just I'm fine. Don't be dramatic. I stared at that line like it was written by a stranger. 13 years of marriage, and that's what she thought I deserved after a full night of silence. Something inside me shifted right then. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Something quieter. A kind of clarity a man only gets when he finally stops begging for respect he should have had all along. If she wouldn't tell me where she'd been, there was something else that would. My hands shook only a little when I opened the Uber app. Not to spy, not to snoop, just to finally look truth in the face. And there it was. Her trip from 11:42 p.m. pickup downtown. Drop off at an address I didn't recognize at first. Copper Ridge Lane. Then I remembered. A barbecue 2 summers ago. A handshake with a guy from her office. The one she'd brushed off with a laugh. He's just a coworker. He's married. Relax. Relax. That word hit different with the map glowing in my hand. I zoomed in. Saw the name tied to the address from an old ride note. Ryan Holtz. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't yell. I just stood there in my own kitchen, the same kitchen I'd painted twice for her, the same place we'd planned holidays and birthdays and late-night pizzas, and felt the kind of cold you feel when a truth finally lines up with every instinct you'd buried. I took screenshots. Not to weaponize. Not to threaten. To stop lying to myself. I made a folder. I didn't name it evidence. I named it truth. Because that's what screenshots are. They don't care about tone of voice, excuses, or tears. They just sit there on a screen, quiet and undeniable. By noon I'd made a decision I didn't know I was capable of. I drove to the hardware store, bought a new deadbolt, and changed the locks on my own front door. Not out of revenge. Not to scare her. But because a man has the right to feel safe in his own home. Her key went on the table. A small piece of metal that suddenly felt heavier than every argument we'd ever had. I didn't call her. Didn't ask where she was. Didn't beg for answers I already had. I just waited. Not for her story, I'd heard enough of those. I waited for her to face the truth she didn't know I held in my hand. And when I heard her car roll into the driveway that evening, gravel crunching under the tires, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel dread. Just that same quiet clarity. When she tried the key and it didn't turn, she laughed first. That nervous, thin laugh people make when they still think they control the moment. "Babe, open up," she said. "Something's wrong with the lock." But something was wrong long before the lock. And for the first time, I wasn't the one pretending everything was fine. When she realized the key wasn't the problem, that the lock had actually changed, her voice shifted. Not to fear, not yet, but to that soft, coaxing tone she used when she wanted to steer me back into the role she'd built for me. The calm husband. The one who backed down, apologized first, bought into her explanations even when they didn't fit. Derek, seriously, what are you doing? Open the door. You're scaring me. But I wasn't doing anything dramatic. I was finally refusing to be the punchline in my own marriage. I stood on the other side of the door, one hand resting on the cool wall, Max sitting by my leg, eyes fixed on the handle like he understood this moment mattered more than any argument we'd ever had. When her knocking picked up, faster and sharper, I didn't flinch. She'd always controlled the tempo of our conflicts. Her tone, her tears, her timing. But not this time. When I finally spoke, the door stayed almost closed, just an inch open for my voice to slip through. Who is he? I asked. Not screaming, not even angry. Just clear. Honest. The kind of question a man asks when he already knows the answer but wants to see if the person in front of him has enough respect left to say the truth. She froze, breath caught, like someone had hit pause. Then came the script. He's just a coworker. I told you about him. You're jumping to conclusions. But lies have a texture. You can hear them even when you want to believe them. And I didn't want to believe anymore. I wanted facts. Uber drove you there, I said quietly. The silence that followed was the first honest thing she'd given me in months. Not confusion, not outrage. Just stillness. Like she realized, all at once, that the ground she'd been dancing on wasn't solid anymore. She switched tactics instantly. Derek, please let me inside. We'll talk. We always talk inside. That was the whole point. Inside, she controlled the lighting, the tone, the distance. Inside, she paced, cried, grabbed onto my arms, touched my face, turned every confrontation into a performance. But outside, with me holding the boundary, her tricks didn't land the same. No, I said. We talk now. Through the door. Her breath stuttered like she hadn't prepared for this version of me. Why are you acting like this? You're making a scene. That word again. Scene. She always framed my boundaries as drama, my feelings as overreactions, my instincts as insecurities. And maybe for a long time I believed her. Not anymore. You left the office at 11:42, I said. Your Uber dropped you at Copper Ridge at 12:07, and you didn't text me once. Didn't call. Didn't come home. If she had even tried a believable answer, maybe a part of me would have cracked. But instead she went with, I was tired. I fell asleep on a couch. I didn't want to wake you. A couch. At another man's house. The lie was so thin it practically dissolved in the air. Max gave a low whine behind me, picking up on the tension. I rested a hand on his back. Steady. Quiet. Then my phone buzzed. A tone I didn't recognize. I glanced down. A name appeared. Holtz. Not Ryan. His wife. My stomach tightened, but not with fear, with the confirmation I didn't know I'd been waiting for. Her message was short. You should see where they went. No greeting. No explanation. Just a single line and an attachment underneath. I didn't open it yet. I didn't need to. That message alone told me more than any scream or excuse coming through the door. Derek? She snapped. Are you even listening to me? I didn't answer. Instead, I tapped the attachment. The picture loaded slowly, the kind of slow that makes your heart thump in your throat. When it finally appeared, everything I'd suspected became painfully clear. A hotel parking lot. Nighttime. Grainy but unmistakable. Her coat, the navy one I bought last winter. Unmistakable too. She was standing beside him. Close. Too close. His hand on her arm. Her face turned toward him. Not away. I swiped to the next photo. The lobby. Bright lights, clean counters, the hotel logo glowing behind them. They were side by side. Him leaning close, her smiling down at something on the desk. Probably the card he was using to check them in. My chest didn't seize up this time. It didn't break. It just settled. Like my body had been carrying a weight for months and finally understood what it was. Then the third photo. The elevator. Doors half closed. His arm around her waist. Her leaning in, not resisting, not hesitating. I stared at that image longer than I should have. Not because it surprised me, but because it matched the feeling I'd been waking up with for a long time, that something in our marriage was happening behind a set of doors I never had the key to. Another message popped up from his wife. Room 314. Check out 7:08 a.m. That was the real punch. Not the images. Not the arm around her waist. The timestamp. While I sat at home staring at the driveway, she was checking out of a hotel room with another man. That was the moment everything finally aligned. The late nights, the secretive smiles, the cold tone she used whenever I asked a simple question. I looked back at the door. Her voice was small now. Derek, what are you looking at? I didn't answer her question. I answered with the only thing that mattered. 7:08 a.m. checkout time. Her breath hitched, and for once she didn't offer a prepared line. She didn't say I'm sorry or it's not what you think. She said the one sentence that buried every last piece of hope I had left. It didn't mean anything. I closed my eyes. One bad decision is a mistake. A night planned and executed in a hotel room is not a mistake. It's a choice. A long, deliberate, intentional choice. And something in me finally hardened into certainty. The man who waited at the window all night was gone. The man standing at the door was someone new. Someone who wasn't going to be lied to through a keyhole ever again. When she said, it didn't mean anything, something in me went quiet in a way I can't fully explain. Not angry, not broken, just done. Like a switch flipped, and the part of me that had been fighting for our marriage out of habit simply powered off. I opened the door only a hand's width. Not enough for her to step inside. Just enough for us to see each other without anything between us but the truth she'd been running from. She looked smaller than I remembered. Red eyes, mascara smudged, hair messy like she'd tried fixing herself up in the car and failed. She clutched her purse strap with both hands as if the leather could hold her together. Derek, please, we can fix this. I just made a mistake. One mistake. I let out a slow breath. A mistake is forgetting a birthday, misplacing your keys, buying the wrong brand of milk. You don't accidentally end up in a hotel room at midnight with your coworker's arm around your waist. I reached to the little table beside the door and picked up the envelope I'd prepared earlier. I'd written her name on the front in my truck at lunch, pressing the pen harder than I meant to. I held it out to her in the narrow opening. She took it with both hands, confused, like she expected a love letter instead of the beginning of the end. Her eyes scanned the first page. The color drained from her face. Divorce? You're divorcing me over one night? No, I said calmly. I'm divorcing you over every lie it took to get you there. She blinked fast, like she'd taken a punch. The neighbors walked by down the street. A jogger, a dad pushing a stroller, and suddenly she angled the envelope toward her chest, hiding the pages. Derek, please, not out here. What if someone sees? That sentence told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't embarrassed by what she did. She was embarrassed by who might find out. I kept my voice level. I'm not performing anything for them. I'm telling you the truth. That's all. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the same nervous habit she used whenever she lied. You don't understand, she whispered. Ryan's wife is unstable. She'll ruin everything. His job, my job. Everything? I asked. Does everything include our marriage? Or is that just collateral damage? She looked away toward the street, and the way she avoided my eyes was more honest than anything she'd said. No tears, no guilt, just fear of consequences. I leaned a shoulder against the doorframe. I stayed up all night worrying if you were in a ditch, in a hospital, dead. Her lips parted like she wanted to interrupt, but I kept going. I believed every late night, every excuse, every time you told me to stop being dramatic. I let her hear the weight of those words. That's on me. But this, I nodded at the envelope. This is me finally standing my ground. She opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. For the first time in a long time, she had no script ready. No prepared lines. Just the truth pressing in on her from all angles. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. Max's ears perked. I pulled it out without breaking eye contact. Her name wasn't on the screen. Instead, another message from his wife. Thank you for confirming. I'm filing today. I let that sentence sit there between us for a moment. Two marriages breaking open at the same time like parallel fault lines. She saw my expression shift. Not with satisfaction, but with clarity, and her voice cracked. Please don't tell her anything else. She'll blow up his career. Mine. It'll destroy everything. You've said that already, I replied quietly. But everything was destroyed long before this. You just didn't notice because I was the one holding it up. I stepped back just a little so she could see the new deadbolt gleaming on the door. You're not walking into this house tonight, I said. Or any night until this is resolved. You can call your sister, or a friend, or whoever you had on speed dial last night. But you're not coming in here like nothing happened. She tried a different angle then. Softness. The version of herself she used before arguments. The one who knew how to tilt her head, lower her voice, make me feel guilty for being hurt. Derek, I love you. We can get help. Counseling. Anything. I'll block his number. I'll quit my job. Tell me what to do. Her desperation should have moved me. Once it would have. But all I felt was this solid, steady calm. The kind you get when a storm finally passes and you can see the damage clearly. Love, I said, doesn't check into a hotel room at midnight. It doesn't tell someone worried sick all night to stop being dramatic. And it doesn't lie so easily you can't even keep the stories straight. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. I didn't mean to hurt you, but that was the last thing I needed to hear. Meaning doesn't erase impact. And her impact had cracked something that couldn't be welded back together. Behind me, Max shifted his weight, nails ticking lightly on the hardwood. Even the dog seemed to know this moment mattered. My throat tightened, but not with sadness, with certainty. I held the door just wide enough for her to hear me clearly. You made choices. I'm making mine. And mine starts with the truth. Hers came out barely above a whisper. What truth? The truth, I said, that I'm done being the only one fighting for a marriage you left a long time ago. She took a single step back, envelope pressed so tight to her chest the paper bent. Her face crumpled, not from remorse, I could tell, but from losing control. Losing the version of me she relied on. Losing the safety net she thought she'd always have. I didn't shut the door yet. I let the moment settle, let her feel the shift in the air, let her understand this wasn't a bluff or a warning shot. It was the point of no return. And when she opened her mouth again, maybe to apologize, maybe to lie, maybe to beg, my phone buzzed once more. A message from my lawyer. Subject line, next steps. I met her eyes one last time and said the only words left. Take care of yourself. Then I closed the door. Clean. Final. Quiet. When the door clicked shut, there wasn't some dramatic burst of relief or a collapse onto the floor like in the movies. It was quieter than that. Almost still. I stood there for a moment with my palm resting against the wood, feeling the vibration of her footsteps as she backed away, then the faint crunch of gravel as she hurried toward her car. Max pressed his head against my leg, sensing the shift in the air. I knelt down, scratched behind his ear, and whispered, "It's just us now, buddy." His tail wagged once, slow and steady, like he already knew. The house felt different after she left. Not broken, not haunted, just empty of something that had been draining me for longer than I wanted to admit. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat at the table where I'd spent countless nights waiting for her to come home, telling myself I was overthinking. Now the same chair felt like the place where I'd finally stopped lying to myself. My phone buzzed again. Not her. A message from my lawyer with a checklist. Gather bank statements. Document assets. Save all communication. Set up a separate account. Basic things, mechanical things, but the kind of things that make a man feel like he's finally steering his own life again. I opened a new folder and started dropping in everything: screenshots, emails, ride history, hotel timestamps. Facts. Cold, neutral, undeniable facts. For years I accepted feelings and excuses. Now I was following proof. Max patted after me as I moved around the house, collecting papers from drawers, photos of appliances and tools, titles and receipts. Not to punish her, but to finally draw the line between her world and mine. Every object I photographed felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself I'd given up trying to keep. The truck keys I always left on the hook by the door. The toolbox covered in grease marks from years of fixing everything in this place. The mortgage papers with our signatures side by side from a time when I believed forever didn't need a backup plan. When I finished, the house felt even quieter. I walked into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and wrote a note to myself on the back of a piece of scrap paper. Don't second-guess this. Pain isn't confusion. Her choices don't define your worth. I folded it and slipped it into the folder with everything else. I knew there would come a night, maybe a week from now, maybe months, when I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder if I'd thrown my life away. That note was there for the version of me who might forget the truth I could see so clearly now. Her name flashed on my phone a little after 10. I let it buzz twice before answering. Her voice came through raw, desperate, shaky. Derek, please don't do this. We can fix it. Counseling. A clean slate. I'll tell you everything. I'll quit my job. I'll block him. I closed my eyes. I'd heard every version of a promise. Every attempt to flip the responsibility back onto my shoulders. This wasn't a woman fighting for me. This was a woman fighting for her comfort that I fix things for a living. I said, keeping my voice steady. And I know when something's too damaged to repair. She sobbed, loud and messy. I didn't hang up. I let her finish every word. Not because I owed it to her, but because it felt like the last courtesy left between us. When she finally ran out of breath, I said the only honest thing I had left. Take care. And then I ended the call. The next morning, sunlight drifted across the hardwood floor like nothing had happened. Birds outside. A lawn mower somewhere down the block. Life continuing without asking for my permission. I made coffee, fed Max, tightened the door hinge that had been clicking for months. Small tasks, simple tasks, the kind of things that remind you the world doesn't collapse just because a relationship does. Later that afternoon, I picked up the phone and called my mother. Not with the details, I couldn't say the hotel room number out loud yet, but with the truth. She cheated. I'm ending it. There was a long pause, then a tired sigh filled with the kind of love only a mother can give. I'm proud of you. You're not weak for leaving. You're strong for not letting someone break you twice. I didn't expect those words to hit me the way they did. They went right through the armor I'd been building all morning. That night, for the first time, I didn't turn on the porch light. No more leaving it on like a lighthouse for someone who chose another shore. I locked the new deadbolt, washed my hands, and climbed into bed. Max curled against my feet, same as always. I stared at the ceiling waiting for the panic, the loneliness, the second-guessing. None of it came. The ache was there. Sure, heartbreak leaves behind a bruise, but the fear was gone. The fear of losing something that wasn't mine anymore. Over the next few days, the messages shifted. Less begging, more guilt, then anger, then back to softness. I didn't respond. Every notification was like a little test of whether I believed in the version of myself who closed that door. And every time, I chose him. On the fourth day, I sat on the edge of the bed and typed 4 words I never thought I'd send to my own wife. I wish you well. No harshness, no sarcasm, just closure. Then I tapped block. A simple tap that felt like pulling a thorn out of my own skin. The quiet after that didn't feel like loss. Felt like space. Space to breathe. Space to exist without being told to relax. Stop being dramatic. Stop noticing what was happening right in front of me. That evening, just before sunset, I clipped Max's leash and took him out for a walk. The sky was painted orange and purple, Texas warm but not choking. A neighbor drove by, leaned out the window and said, "Hang in there, man." For the first time, I didn't feel like I needed that advice. I nodded, smiled a little and said, "I'm good," and I meant it. When we got to the park, I sat on a bench and watched kids laugh on the swings, a couple grilling burgers, a group of teenagers kicking a soccer ball. Life happening, life moving. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was part of it again. Not stuck in the shadow of someone else's lies. Here's the truth I want any man listening to hear. I didn't end my marriage over one night. I ended it over the pattern that led to that night. Every gaslight. Every "don't be dramatic." Every time I was made to feel like noticing the truth made me the problem. That hotel room wasn't the betrayal. It was the receipt. If any of this hit home for you, make sure you hit subscribe. More men need to hear that choosing yourself isn't weakness. It's the first step toward getting your life back.